Hi, Jerry. Thank you for carving out a bit of time for us today. The reason we wanted to reach out to you and get your perspective is CMHC came out with this article on January 21st, and it's created quite a bit of conversation. So I always like to go to you because you've got the facts.
Happy to be here, Paige. I just want to talk to that article directly. They're going with a worst case scenario with 25% unemployment and a giant recession, and which will cause real estate prices to collapse. Well, if we look back at CMHC, the former head of CMHC who just left used to be at Goldman Sachs, and he dealt with the meltdown. He was partly responsible for the meltdown in the United States just before Obama took office. And they sold and bought subprime mortgages, which were really just paper, and everybody lost their shirt. But we're really not looking at that kind of scenario in Canada. Number one, we have a very strong and structured system. We have a stress test that everybody has to qualify under to get a mortgage. So the mortgage is either high ratio insured by CMHC, or they have more than 20% down. So we have a very sound system for mortgaging, and there is no speculation. So when people talk about, well, people can't afford these mortgages and they're going into default, we're seeing the default numbers actually go down, not up. And we're looking at 0.6 of 1% when we're talking about default. The only area of defaults that's growing at all is actually people over the age of 65, which is a little unusual.
Interesting.
But everything else is dropping. So there's going to be no, rows and rows of foreclosures. And the other thing that everybody talked about was the deferral cliff. Everybody was deferring their mortgages, and then they weren't going to be able to pay their mortgages when they had to. That has pretty much gone away. All those defaults are now back in line, and that cliff turned into just a little bunny hill. So again, that was just people looking for the worst case. So if we look at the market today, what we see on our side is we see COVID affecting buyers. And what I mean by that is people that can't work in their office or working from home. They don't particularly like their home, so they want to upgrade. So they're going from a one bedroom to a two bedroom, a two bedroom to a detached home. And the other growth we're seeing is recreational property and second homes, because they can't go on a trip. So they're buying somewhere that they can actually travel to. And Whistler and Squamish are another hotspot for that. So I really look at the most positive aspects of the market today is people are buying for lifestyle. They're not buying for speculation. They're buying for their needs driven, and it's lifestyle. And that's a very positive influence when you're looking at people buying and selling real estate today.
Well, one of the things I wanted to also ask you is we've got a lot of new or first-time buyers coming to the market as well. They don't want to be a renter. They might be living in a house with multiple parties, and then now they're feeling like some confidence in buying in Vancouver. What advice would you suggest for these first-time buyers to get ready to head into the market?
The number one thing they need to do is get a proper pre-approval. And a proper pre-approval is someone needs to access their credit history, because that's 65% of the decision by the lender. And we see that happen all the time when banks do pre-approvals. Banks don't look at credit history until they get a live deal. Well, then you're way too late if there are any issues or challenges. And so our recommendation is make sure you get a bona fide pre-approval with a credit check, so that you know what your situation is. And if there are any challenges, we can deal with them up front before you get into a situation of trying to buy a property and turn out very disappointed. We had it happen again this week. The gentleman went to a major brick and mortar bank. He didn't make a lot of money, but he had a decent enough down payment. But his credit score was so low that we couldn't qualify him at the highest limits. And so the deal fell apart, and boy, was he disappointed.
Well, the other point I'd like to make is we've actually had a client write an offer on a property, had it accepted. They were working directly with a big bank. And then what happened was, their file was sitting in somewhere in Toronto, subject removal was coming up. And, like somebody at a desk in Toronto doesn't really care that 5 o'clock on Friday that the subject removal is due. How would it work with you?
Well, if you look at my moniker, it says 24/7. I answer my phone every day, 7 days a week. and I can do a credit check on the weekend. I can do it instantly. It takes me 15 seconds to look at someone's credit. So as in that 65% of the decision, that's the first thing we need to do when we're doing a pre-approval. And then we look at income qualification, and then lastly, the property itself. So, the process is get the credit check done up front.
Okay. Thanks again, Jerry.
You're most welcome. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.